Well, here it is, the end of August, and high school football is underway, and we welcome you to the Hamilton County High School Football Coaches Show. I'm Brad Silbert. I'd like to join us tonight. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to Logan Street Signs and Banners, Noblesville Trophies, our sponsors, and we're going to get right to the games here. We're joined by Coach Rick Wimmer of the Fishers Tigers, and Coach, the Tigers had a big game Friday night against a pretty tough opponent.
Well, we certainly played well defensively and got some huge plays out of our defense. The kicking game was very good, and we started the game well offensively. Didn't really sustain that like we wanted to, but our defense was just outstanding, and came away with 6 interceptions, which is a school record for Fishers High School. We've never had that many. I haven't coached a team that's gotten 6 interceptions in my career, so that's quite a feat. And we played well, particularly on that side of the ball, and hopefully we can build on it.
Well, it looked like most of the first quarter was kind of back and forth there. Then toward the end of the first quarter, a 9-yard pass, and then after that, a field goal to end the first quarter. So it was kind of like ramping up and kind of maybe getting a little of the cobwebs out and get going.
Yeah. Well, we had a nice drive to start the game. Drove it all the way down the field and got stopped on the 3 and tried to kick a field goal and we hit the crossbar on the field goal. So the good drive we had to start the game and good things we did there. It's kind of a tough feeling when you run off the field and don't have anything to show for it. But our defense came right back. Jackson Dunn about 2 plays later picked off a pass and took it down close to the 10-yard line, and we went to Jeffrey Simmons in the corner of the end zone to get the scoring started for us, and that was that was a big shot in the arm. But the defense set that up, and that kind of continued all night long.
I've always been a Mike Ditka type person. Defense sets the tone for the offense, and it certainly did for you guys Friday night.
Well, it certainly did. Jackson had a pick. Jeffrey Brown had a pick 6 for us. Grant Wetzel had an outstanding game with 2 interceptions. Had a chance to get a third one. Didn't quite pull it in, but he had 2 interceptions and also recovered a muff punt. So 3 turnovers from Grant Wetzel was huge for us. Also had interceptions from Billy Ryder and Colin Shelton. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody, but that's we had 6 interceptions in all. So, like I said, that's anytime it's hard to lose a game if you can get 6 interceptions.
Yeah,
and that's you give our defense a lot of credit. And it wasn't just that, we really played well against the run as well. They did get some yards on us in the fourth quarter running the football, but we held them under 100 yards on the night and under 200 yards of total offense, so it was a good night.
Been a few years since you had a team play in Lucas Oil. How do you prepare? Do you prepare any differently, or how do you prepare for that type of game that's in, shall we call it, the big house?
Yeah, not really. We don't prepare any differently, especially at this point in the year. You're just concerned about trying to get things in and executing the things that you've got and not really worried too much about all those other things. But you have to prepare a little bit differently for the warm-up time, and certainly you want to get your receivers and your punt returners and kick returners some time out there catching footballs, because it is a little bit different in that facility. But our preparation really isn't any different. I told my athletic director we got to schedule more games in Lucas Oil Stadium because we're 5-0 in that stadium since we started the program. So
of course your team had the honor of playing the first ever high school football game there and scoring the first touchdown ever in Lucas Oil Stadium before it opened for the Colts. A number we sit here and say a number of years ago, and that place is so new. It just seems like it's hasn't been there all that long.
2008, and played Noblesville in that game, and so it's been we've been fortunate. We've had a chance to play in there 5 times, and we, like I said, we need to schedule more games. I think we seem to come out on the right end there.
I know in the kids that I talked to from some of the teams through the years, being able to play a game, whether it was in the old Hoosier Dome or in Lucas Oil, is really special to the kids.
Oh, certainly, certainly. Our kids were excited. Our community was excited, and it's a special place, and it's fun to play in a place like that and to do something a little bit out of the ordinary. So glad our kids got the opportunity to do that, and be able to play the first game in it. You know, you always have that aspiration of trying to play your last game
Yep.
in it. So, but we've certainly got a long way to go before we can start giving that a whole lot of thought. We've certainly got things, even after a big win like this, there's certainly a lot of things we got to work on.
Well, you guys went out to a 26-0 lead in the first half, and then just kind of traded possessions back and forth in the second half. Both teams seemed to have some opportunities, but nobody could cash in. Do you think part of that was maybe the teams kind of getting into their groove and getting a little more accustomed?
Yeah, our defense continued to play very well the second half. I think we had 4 picks in the first half, and we had 3 in the second half. And I think the muffed punt turnover that we got was in the second half as well. So we had 4 picks in the first half and 2 in the second, and the fumble. But we offensively, we just I really didn't plan on getting conservative, and we didn't throw it as much, but it was more my stubbornness, I think. I wanted to run the football, and we weren't running it as well as I wanted to, and I just got a little stubborn, and because of the score, I didn't feel like I had to, I just wanted to run the ball and see if we could run it, and I was disappointed that we didn't run it any better than we did. So that's going to be a point of emphasis for us this week, is that we need to be the kind of team that can run the football. And I thought we had good balance the first half, and probably could have the second half. But like I said, I got a little stubborn, and I was determined that we were going to run the ball, and just didn't work out for us.
Well, I think another feather in your cap for the entire team is that this is the first time the Panthers have been shut out in like 4 or 5 seasons. I think it goes back to 2015, and especially with a coach like Kevin O'Shea, who's had such success everywhere he's been. That's quite a feat.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize that, but yeah, that is. And anytime you can get a shutout in today's football, the way football is going today, and the types of things offenses are doing, it's very difficult to shut a team out, and it's very difficult to keep the score down. And like you said, Kevin O'Shea is as fine an offensive football coach as there is in the state of Indiana. And they've got the makings of a good team. They've got to figure out the quarterback position, but he will get that done. He's a good offensive coach, and I'm sure they're going to be a much different team. I'm glad we had them the first game of the season. They'll be a different team later on in the year, I'm sure. So hopefully we will too. Hopefully we'll continue to prove as well.
Well, coming up Friday night, you'll be going up against one of the masters of the game in Pat Echeverria, who has been at one of your former schools at Zionsville, and well-traveled coach, but now taking over the Pike position. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect out of the game Friday night, which will be part of our game day coverage Friday.
Pike is an athletic team. They returned about half their defense from a year ago. I was impressed. They kept the score down against Zionsville. Zionsville runs pretty wide open offense. New coach there too, but Pike lost to Zionsville 17-7. But the defense certainly kept the game within reach, and they've got some skill on the offensive end. But Zionsville, Larry McWhorter's the defensive coordinator there, and he's always been an outstanding defensive coach. And no matter who plays them, you'll have a hard time scoring against a Zionsville defense. I have a feeling. So I think Pike is a team that we'll have to play well against. Our defense, hopefully we understand there's still a lot of things that we need to work on defensively and can get better at. And I think we can pressure the passer better. I hope to see us pressure the passer a little more than we did this last week. And we'll always continue to work to stop the run first, and that'll be the case with Pike. And then offensively, we're going to need to be much better than we were last week, and we'll need a good showing from our kicking game. Our kicking game was very solid, but that's one of the fastest ways you can get yourself in trouble in a football game is to have a slip up there. So that will also be an important part of it.
We just got a few seconds left here, and I'd just like you to just briefly comment overall on the Hoosier Crossroad Football Conference this year.
Well, it's always a tough conference, and this year, at least from week one, looks like it's going to be exceptionally tough. I think our conference faced off against some of the top teams in the state. 4 teams from the MIC, and won those games. I think the only game that somebody in our conference lost was to a powerhouse Cathedral team.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think. Brownsburg had a great win against Ben Davis team. Avon had a huge win against the Columbus North team, and so it's always a tough league, but from the looks of week one, it's gonna be even tougher.
Yeah. That's Coach Rick Wimmer. Rick, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Good luck this week. We will not be on the air next Monday night for the Labor Day holiday, but we'll be looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And we'll be back with more coaches' interviews after this on the Hamilton County High School Football Coaches Show.
Okay.
We're clear. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
We'll get Justin in here.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for Logan Street signs and banners.
You found us.
But this ain't Logan Street. This is South 10th.
We moved 22 years ago.
Well, how come you didn't change the name?
That would have just confused people.
Well, actually, South 10th is Allisonville. If you're from Fishers.
How long we
Before
got,
that, it
Jeannie?
was 37A, and before that, it
Okay.
was State Road 37.
So
Just
you're
enough for me to move, shuffle my paperwork
Street
around here.
signs and banners isn't on Logan Street anymore. It's actually on South 10th. That's Allisonville and Fishers.
We're not going to dwell on a lot of negative here.
You're
Justin.
fine.
We're gonna try to make this as positive as we can, my man.
Banners conveniently
See all those highlight teams we play against? God damn.
South 10th Street.
Well, one of the things Rick and we were talking about the conference this year. It's,
Crazy. Top to
brutal.
bottom.
It's going to be brutal.
Conference went 4-0 versus the MIC. I mean, seriously. And we were the lone loser.
Well, you ain't got nothing to be ashamed of going up against.
No, we're at a gunfight with rubber bands a little bit there with inexperienced young guys.
We sell trophies, we sell plaques, we do embroidery.
You got something on.
You got carry out?
Unlike the internet, everything that you need, we have here at the shop. If you need, if you order today, carry out tonight,
Okay.
that's our version of carry out.
All right, I'll take one of everything.
Well, that may take a little longer. We'll have it for you tomorrow night.
You know, Jim, I'll be back tomorrow to pick it up.
Commercial.
We'll wait for you.
Don't wait long.
Welcome back to the Hamilton County Football Coaches Show here on Hamilton County Television, brought to you by Logan Street Signs and Banners and Noblesville Trophies. We're joined now by Noblesville Millers head coach Justin Roden. And Coach Roden, opening week was kind of a rough one for the Millers.
I've had some better Fridays before. It's one of those games when take a step back and realize how blessed you've been the previous seasons, and you give your wife a kiss and you squeeze your kids a little bit. You know that we're going to get better, but I think as everybody understands, it's a pretty good football team we played on Friday, and we got a lot of experience, a lot of youth, and good news is we got a chance to kind of turn that page and play another opponent this week.
Let's just talk specifically about the game. I mean, I know it was it was kind of a tough loss at 42-14,
Sure.
but there's got to be some positive aspects that came out of this too.
Oh,
Let's try to dwell on the positive.
Yeah, we were beat up before the game started. We got some guys hurt. We got lots of kids sick. We had kids with pneumonia. Had a goofy day or a couple goofy practices with the weather last week. So it was just one of those perfect storms when you're just not quite, you don't have that confidence going into the game, feeling like, hey, we've got this. But I will say that we're diving into a completely new offense. We're going under center and running the triple. I thought Alex Zabak actually played a pretty good game. We didn't turn the football over, which for us, and that style offense is huge. And if we can avoid the big plays, we're going to be okay. I think our biggest negative, and I know we're talking about positives, but our biggest negative Friday was giving up the big play. And we preach, bend but don't break, and we did that last year. We kept ourselves in games. Our inexperience on the edges and the corner and some tackling breakdowns, kind of defeated what I'd say our message, but what we try to preach to kids on a daily basis, and keeping things in front of you and being great tacklers. So I was pleased with our quarterback play. I was pleased with the fact that we didn't turn it over, and then our punter, Graydon, was just out of this world. I mean, we really spent a great deal of time in the summer really working on special teams. I thought our special teams were good, and that's a big part of how we're going to be successful, is being fundamentally sound in those special teams units. We just got to improve upon, killing the penalties. We had some penalties at the wrong times, and, giving up the big play. But as a whole, and I've told this to people as well, I like this group of kids. They're good kids. They're very coachable. It's just they're puppies, as I call them, and a lot of them, even the seniors. We got some seniors out there. People are like, oh, well, you got 4 or 5 seniors. Well, they might as well be sophomores. It's their first time under the lights. We had a huge crowd Friday. You're playing Cathedral. That's hard to ask a 17-year-old to go out there and for doing it for the first time and not to make a mistake. So we'll get better. We're coaching as hard as we can possibly coach, and the kids had a great day of practice today, and I'm looking forward to playing on their team this week.
Well, you guys had a lot of seniors graduate last year, and you had a lot of key position players.
Absolutely.
Leave the program, and I mean, I don't mean that in a derogatory way.
Oh.
Senior graduates, and one of the biggest challenges I always, say to any coach I talk to is, every year you're having to rebuild.
Yeah, and especially for me here, because at the end of the day, those seniors were Jason and Lance's kids. I came in and tried to take the keys to the car and try to blend, my beliefs and my style of football to those kids on their third coach. There were some special players in that class. I mean, Grant is doing really well at Indiana. Groover's off to Marion. Tuane's off at Arkansas State. Dalton's doing well at Findlay. Bostrom is starting. He's listing as a starting guard right now. So we've got 7 or 8 kids playing collegiate football that were starters for us for 2-3 years. That's a hard thing to just kind of say, hey, throw in the next batch of guys and be successful. Now, I don't want to make excuses. That's not who I am. So the expectation is that we're going to get better and we're going to compete. I would say that my biggest disappointment, I always want our boys, when the game is over, whether we win or lose, to have the fans proud of how they played the game. And we played hard Friday, but I was not, I didn't walk off that field thinking that our kids, played as hard as they possibly could. And I think a lot goes at the inexperience, but the challenge this week for the boys is to, embrace playing a physical style football and be tougher and be mentally stronger. And, when you're young like that, that's a hard thing. So we're going to push them and challenge them and play a team that on paper is superior to us this week.
Yeah, I was looking over your schedule as well as the others, and in addition to the fact that you play the 2 non-conference games that you have this season are both against excellent football programs.
Oh.
I mean, Cathedral, for years has just been the team to emulate,
Absolutely.
the team you want to beat, and of course Carmel has had is had a lot of success. And let's just talk, before we talk about the conference, let's just talk a little bit about what you're going to be coming up against Friday night over at Carmel.
Yeah, so I saw the score from the Trinity game and immediately kind of just shook my head because Carmel is fantastic this year once again, and then got the film and understood that Carmel had a bad night. They had some things execution-wise that aren't like them. And Trinity is, my goodness gracious, a very special football team down in Kentucky, and they've been doing things the right way for a long time. We watched the film and just kept saying, oh my, because of the size and the speed of Carmel and how good they are up front. And, just there's a reason why they're picked as the preseason big school #1 team. So, for us, John and company, they're so fundamentally sound. They do things the right way. I know they were frustrated Friday night because they turned the ball over a little bit on the back half and threw some interceptions, and they're kind of, working through a couple quarterbacks because they're trying to figure things out before they get to the conference. And the beauty of Indiana football is their game week 1 and their week 2 really don't mean anything. Those are just, I'm not saying glorified scrimmage. That's not their way to say that, but those are preparations for their MIC conference. Those are preparations for their ultimate goal, and that's to win a state championship.
Yeah.
I know a few years ago they, when John won it, they had a losing record, and by come playoff time, they had kind of spun that around and ended up winning a state title. So, if anybody thinks that Carmel was still not a talented and special football team, they're ignorant. So, we've got our hands full, and we're working really hard this week to play better. I think that's what we have to do. We have to alleviate the fact that we're going to Carmel and playing a team of that prowess and make it more about the Millers and the Millers getting better. And from us to take a step forward, that week 1 to week 2 is critical. So we really want to improve in every facet of the game and do things that make our fans proud of how we play it and what we're trying to get done for Noblesville.
As I said a couple minutes ago, you played 2 teams, your 2 teams in your non-conference games, being Cathedral and Carmel. But,
Cupcakes, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of teams out there that would look to take those first 2 games and make them cupcake games. And, I mean, you guys haven't shied away from a challenge, but, my point in the whole thing being here is then you go into the last 7 weeks of the season against your HCC opponents, and it just doesn't get any easier.
Yeah, so everyone in our conference won Friday night, but us. Our conference was 4-0 against the MIC. There is nobody in the conference, and you go, hey, this is a winnable game. This is a game we should win. You go in there and you prepare like crazy, and you hope to catch one of those guys on a bad night because. I guess, I just had a conversation with somebody the other day. Top to bottom, this might be the best conference in the state. I mean, if you balance out each of these teams, it might not even be close. I mean, I'm not disrespecting the MIC in any facet, but there's some darn good football being played in our conference, and there's some good coaches. That's the other thing too that kind of gets lost here. Besides good teams, there's great coaches, there's great leadership from administration, and these programs all do things the right way. So
I remember when the HCC was first formed here, about 15, 16 years ago or so, and people looked at it as, just another new conference, and and as it developed, and even when we had the 3 Lafayette teams in the conference, I always felt like it was a very, very good competitive conference, and I think that most or all of our teams can pretty well put themselves up against most of them. People look at the MIC as the standard.
Absolutely,
and
they win it. They win it enough.
Yeah,
They've earned that right.
They have the history.
Absolutely.
But now there's there's another group in town called the Hoosier Crossroad Conference. Kind of like the new sheriff in town.
Sure.
And, well, Coach Roden, we thank you for being here tonight, and good luck against.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We
could use a little bit this week.
Against the Greyhounds on Friday night. And we'll be back with more coaches' interviews after this on the Hamilton County High School Football Coaches Show.
Thank you.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for Logan Street signs and banners.
You found us.
But this ain't Logan Street. This is South 10th.
We moved 22 years ago.
Well, how come you didn't change the name?
That would have just confused people.
Well, actually, South 10th is Allisonville. If you're from Fishers,
Before that, it was 37A, and before that, it was State Road 37.
So you're telling me that Logan Street Signs and Banners isn't on Logan Street anymore? It's actually on South 10th. That's Allisonville and Fishers. And before that, it was 37A and 37?
So you got that straight?
Logan Street Signs and Banners conveniently not located on Logan Street, but rather South 10th Street in Noblesville.
Exactly.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to order a hamburger, fries, salt, maybe a large vanilla shake. Yeah.
This is a trophy shop, can't you tell?
You got a counter right here. Isn't this where you place the orders?
We sell trophies, we sell plaques, we do embroidery. No food.
You got carry out?
Unlike the internet, everything that you need we have here at the shop. Very unique. You order today, carry out tonight. That's our version of carry out.
All right, I'll take one of everything.
Well, that may take a little longer. We'll have it for you tomorrow night.
You know, Jim, I'll be back tomorrow to pick it all up.
We'll wait for you.
Don't wait long.
Welcome back to the Hamilton County High School Football Coaches Show. I'm Brad Silbert. We're joined now by John Kirchner, head coach of the Hamilton Heights Huskies, enjoying his second season at the helm of the Huskies. And it was a road trip down to Fortville on Friday to visit the Mount Vernon Marauders. And unfortunately for the Huskies, it was a tough evening.
Yes, it was.
Tell us a little bit about the game. Let's just kind of run through a review if we could.
Well, we started off a little slow. The first series of offense did not go real well. They jumped out on us to a 7-0 lead, and then we got a couple turnovers, and a couple things started clicking, and those turnovers led to 2 touchdowns, and then they got a safety. Their punter stepped out of the back of the end zone, and next thing we know, it's second quarter, and we're up 16-7, in control. We get a safety ourselves, and that was a huge momentum shift. They went from 16-7, where we're kind of controlling the game, to they get 16-9. Next thing you know, but we're getting ready to go into halftime, and it's 29-16. I mean, it was a huge momentum shift where they got the wind back in their sails, and they took off. Completed some big pass plays and things like that.
From what I saw, the game summary, it looked like up until maybe the latter part of the second quarter, you guys were playing them fairly even, and then it was almost kind of like the bottom dropped out, unfortunately.
We began to make several mistakes. You know, we had 2 offside penalties, where one was a 4th down situation, one was a 3rd and long situation. Both cost us, first downs and ended up leading to the touchdown drives. But then we came out in the second half, didn't do a whole lot offensively, but then we got pick 6, made it 29-23. They go back down, score again. We get the ball back, we drive, and we're 1st and 10 at their 30 or so, and we got a wide receiver wide open, running down, and we're going to hit him, and the guy gets through, and quarterback has to throw for his life and overthrows it. Otherwise, it's going to be 30-37 early in the 4th quarter. Comparatively speaking to what we did last year, in a nutshell, yes, they pulled away at the end. They scored one late because we had given them a short field, and we were trying to go for it on 4th and whatnot. So they stole one right at the end of the game. But for the entirety of the game, the biggest thing that I saw is the effort. From our kids, no matter what happened, no matter what situation they were put through, I did not ever feel that they were going to give up. And that's why it became 29-23. That's why it was almost 37-30. Those situations that those kids were put into, whatever the reason may have been, they continued to fight. which I think bodes very well for the rest of the season. Mount Vernon's a really high caliber offense, really high caliber, high tempo defense. We had 174 snaps for the night. They got guys that are going one way, or at least rotating, and the majority of our guys are playing both ways most of the time. And I think that a little bit, and towards the end, we got a little fatigued. But bottom line is, I'm walking away with A, we got better. B, we played with attitude, effort, and with those three things combined, I'm excited for what's coming.
I know it's not a lot of consolation, but I have a lot of history with Mount Vernon personally. My son played football back in the middle 90s, and
For Coach Peacock,
Mount Vernon was always he was at Hamilton Southeastern, but Mount Vernon was always a tough place to play, regardless of where you came from. That was the atmosphere was always just the fans were just really into the game, and it was a tough place to play a game. And I remember several games out there coming right down to last second plays, and in a couple of cases Hail Marys and things like that. But it was always the Marauders have always been great competition. Let's talk a little bit about your conference here. You're part of the Hoosier Conference. You guys will begin play here in a couple more weeks against Northwestern in September. But in the meantime, before that, you'll have North Montgomery at home for your home opener, and then travel to West Lafayette. And now let's talk about those two games. How do you look upon those?
North Montgomery, they're a team we got some unfinished business with. They're big and they're physical. And we're going to have to play very disciplined, very physical football to beat them this Friday. So they lost a tough one against North Putnam last week, but they're a different type of football team. They are more of a smash mouth football team. Not that my dad's kids at Mount Vernon didn't fire out and hit, but they had some speed that we're not going to see a lot of down the road. I think West Lafayette, there'll be a couple that have that speed, but the overall team speed of Mount Vernon was pretty impressive. So North Montgomery's not going to have that speed, but they are going to have that physicality that Mount Vernon had. So we're going to have our hands full.
Then you go to West Lafayette before you start conference play, and you'll start conference play mid-September, and you'll have Northwestern, Western, Tipton, and Lewis Cass. Four pretty decent programs.
Right. They're all pretty good. Lewis Cass is a really good senior class. Western, they're pretty good. They're physical, they're big, they're strong, they're fast. Tipton, it doesn't matter where Tipton and I are on the schedule. When it's Tipton Hamilton Heights, it's a different ballgame. I mean, everybody's playing on cloud nine in that week, so that's a no-holds bar. And so if anybody that knows anything about Hamilton County football or Hamilton Heights, you know that Tipton and Hamilton Heights, that's the game.
That has always been such a rivalry. I've had the pleasure of being able to broadcast some of those games, and I did a little bit more basketball than football, but it's always been a great rivalry between those schools, and they've always been fantastic games. And in that, but next week or week after, back on the road again to West Lafayette.
Right.
How about how about West Lafayette? How do you see them?
They're a darn good football team. I mean, we're gonna have to play really well. And I think that's all that probably needs to be said. What they do speaks for themselves.
Well, overall, just like all the teams in Hamilton County, it appears as though the Hoosier Conference this year is going to be another good, tight year. Probably come right down to the end, and a lot of good competition there in that. So, we've been visiting with head coach John Kirchner of the Hamilton Heights Huskies. Coach Kirchner, good luck this coming week, and we will see you again in a couple weeks. We'll be right back after this on the Hamilton County High School Football Coaches Show.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for Logan Street signs and banners.
You found us.
But this ain't Logan Street. This is South 10th.
We moved 22 years ago.
Well, how come you didn't change the name?
That would have just confused people.
Well, actually, South 10th is Allisonville. If you're from Fishers.
Before that, it was 37A, and before that, it was State Road 37.
So you're telling me that Logan Street signs and banners isn't on Logan Street anymore? It's actually on South 10th. That's Allisonville and Fishers. And before that, it was 37A and 37?
So you got that straight?
Logan Street signs and banners conveniently not located on Logan Street, but rather South 10th Street in Noblesville.
Exactly.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to order a hamburger, fries, salt, maybe a large vanilla shake. Yeah.
This is a trophy shop, can't you tell?
You got a counter right here. Isn't this where you place the orders?
We sell trophies, we sell plaques, we do embroidery. No food.
You got carry out?
Unlike the internet, everything that you need we have here at the shop. Very unique. You order today, carry out tonight. That's our version of carry out.
All right, I'll take one of everything.
Well, that may take a little longer. We'll have it for you tomorrow night.
You know, Jim, I'll be back tomorrow to pick it all up.
We'll wait for you.
Don't wait long.
Welcome back to the Hamilton County High School Football Coaches Show. I'm Brad Silbert. We're joined now by Tom Dilley, head coach of the Guerin Catholic Golden Eagles. And the Eagles flew up to South Lafayette and had a good night Friday night against those Mavericks up there, Tom.
Yeah, it's just fun to get the season started again. We're really proud of the effort and preparation our kids put in over the summer, and it's nice to let them go out and show what they've been working on. It was a great atmosphere. We had a lot of respect for the McCutcheon program, and good team, well coached, and really first time I've been in that community and at a ball game, and it was a packed house and just a great atmosphere. It was fun.
Yeah, I was telling some of the other coaches earlier that my son played years ago, and McCutcheon was one of the teams that we played, and that was always quite an atmosphere up there on the south side of Lafayette. They get a lot of, they have an excellent following, and their fans are really into the game. Let's just kind of step through the game here and talk about what transpired through the game. A 24-14 victory for you guys, and let's just kind of run top to bottom here, quarter by quarter.
Well, we got up first. It was, couldn't have scripted it any better. In fact, it was a scripted, opening drive, and the kids executed well. And I don't know, about 75 or 80-yard drive in about 10 or 12 plays, and got one in the end zone. Quarterback Christian Gelov performed well. Our tailback Gus Baumgartner performed well. The offensive line was solid. And then after a defensive series, we got the ball back in real good field position, and we were able to go down and get a field goal. We stalled out inside the 10. So we're up 10-0. Gave up a touchdown on kind of a miscommunication, but credit to McCutcheon. They made a nice play. And anyway, we go in a half at 10-7. It reminded me a little bit of last year's game where we got off to a pretty good start and then bogged down quite a bit and ended up losing in overtime. So I was really happy that in the second half our kids finished well. Had an important goal line stand in the fourth quarter, and were able to turn around and capitalize on that and score some points. And so our kids just they played hard every play.
Stars of the game for you.
Our tailback, Gus Baumgartner, was over 200 yards. I think 208, somewhere in that neighborhood. Our quarterback, Christian Gelov, was 10 for 14 with a couple touchdown passes. Thought the offensive line was solid all night. And then, defensively, we had both our outside linebackers, Ethan Sutton and Nick Demas, played really well. Made some big plays. Took the ball away one time in a key play. I thought our inside linebackers played well as well. D-line didn't make a whole lot of plays, but they were really flying around and freeing some people up too. So It was a good team win.
How much did the complexion of this team change last year to this year?
And we lost a lot of important pieces, a lot of really good players. We have some players back and some important players, but we lost our tailback and our best lineman and an inside linebacker who's kind of the heart and soul of our defense for 3 years, and an outside linebacker who was kind of a coach on the field as far as making adjustments and really smart and a really good player. So, that leaves a little bit of a vacuum. But I think this senior class has done a nice job so far of stepping up and being united and filling a lot of those holes. I don't know, ability-wise, I don't know how it equates, but they produced on Friday.
This week, home opener, and it will be against one of your rivalry teams, I would say, Lafayette Central Catholic. That's really developed into a good rivalry for you
Sure,
guys.
we're the only two teams in that, or in high schools in that Lafayette diocese, and sister schools to some degree. I know I've been here 5 years now, and I know they've been playing since our school opened. And obviously, LCC has a great tradition. There's been a lot of back and forth in the contest, and there'll be a trophy at the end of the game and all that kind of stuff. So, as much as you talk about and we believe every game is the same, the most important game is the next game and so forth, obviously there is a little bit added to it, and that we're part of the same system.
I've seen a couple of your games, the Lafayette Central Catholic games, and it's quite an atmosphere for that game.
It usually is. We always enjoy our home community comes out and kind of does it up right, and tailgating and a lot of fun in the stadium. So especially with LCC coming to town, it'll be a great atmosphere.
I know once or twice when I was out there, we had all kinds of rain delays and problems and lightning and stuff like that. But boy, once that game got going again,
Yeah.
the fans were there. And just talk a little bit about what the support from the fans means to you and this team,
No,
Coach.
we get great support from our community and from our administration, and I think both are equally important. Our parents do a great job of taking a lot of things off the coaching staff plate that are nice things for the team, and our moms group and so forth. They do a great job of everything from organizing all the meals to praying for our kids every Friday. It's a unique community that really cares about the kids. They care about the kids that come in as our visiting opponents as well, and I mean they treat people well, and it's critical to our team, just like it is any team probably. But so many of the neat traditions or rituals that involve our team are taken care of by our parents, and we would really miss a lot of that without them.
Let's talk a little bit about your schedule and also conference games. I know you're in a 14 conference with Chittard, Roncalli, and Brebeuf, which is a little bit odd to see a 4-conference team, but all very good football schools. And also your schedule. You guys play what in my estimate, you play a tough schedule.
Oh yeah, I think while you don't want to worry about too much down the road, and we're only focused on this game. Even in the off season, when you look at the schedule, it's the toughest schedule we've had since I've been there for certain. I don't imagine it was tougher before I was there. So it's a very competitive schedule, as it ought to be. You get tested every week, and we're just taking it 1 week at a time.
Well, you guys are a 3A school, and one of the oddities I noticed about the schedule when I was looking at it today, you play a team from each of the classes in your schedule. Is that by design or kind of by accident, or?
Well, not necessarily. Of course, we're always going to play Lafayette Central Catholic, and they're a great football program, but the size of the school, they're a little bit smaller, and obviously the Chittard, Brebeuf, Roncalli, that covers some 3 and some 5A.
Roncalli's a 4, yeah.
4 and 5A, and once we get up into McCutcheon, and then we picked up Columbus North last year, great program.
Yep.
is a 6A school, and then have a couple teams out of Michigan also to kind of round it out. So, yeah, it's every class plus a couple teams from another state.
Let's talk about those two teams. They're both going to be coming here this year from Birmingham and Pontiac.
Yeah, we went up to Pontiac last year to play Notre Dame Prep. Really good program, nice atmosphere. Really fortunate to make a long trip up there and play pretty well, come away with a victory. But none of that really matters now. We don't know a whole lot about them as far as, we obviously know who they have coming back, but we'll wait and see when we get down the road what we need to do with them. And Brother Rice is obviously a real strong traditional power out of the state of Michigan that we've never faced before, but I know that they've come down south of the border to play Penn for a few years, so we're excited about that one too.
Circle City Conference, 4 teams, but 4 very good teams, and this almost. I've been talking to the coaches about the MIC versus the HCC, and in those 2 conferences, you got such a great talent, and it seems to me you guys got the same thing in the Circle City. Is that you're kind of up there? You got 4 good teams and they're pounding on each other.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to play in those games. You know that you're playing against a team that's well coached. You know that you're playing against a team in a school community that really values the game and is going to create a great atmosphere, and it's going to be very, very competitive. But it's also pretty unique in the respect I think the teams have for each other, and how as adversarial as it gets during the game, before and after, there's a lot of mutual respect.
Well, coming up Friday night, you'll have Lafayette Central Catholic over there at Guerin Catholic, and that will be one of the 4 games that we will have here on Hamilton County Television on our game day presentation. In addition to Fishers at Pike, Hamilton Southeastern at North Central, and Shenandoah at Heritage Christian. Good luck in that game, Coach.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate you being here, and
Thanks for having
we'll
us.
see you again in 2 weeks.
All right.
We'll be back with another coach on the Hamilton County High School Football Show after this.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for Logan Street signs and banners.
You found us.
But this ain't Logan Street. This is South 10th.
We moved 22 years ago.
Well, how come you didn't change the name?
That would have just confused people.
Well, actually, South 10th is Allisonville. If you're from Fishers.
Well, before that it was 37A, and before that it was State Road 37.
So you're telling me that Logan Street signs and banners isn't on Logan Street anymore. It's actually on South 10th. That's Allisonville and Fishers. And before that, it was 37A and 37?
So you got that straight?
Logan Street signs and banners conveniently not located on Logan Street, but rather South 10th Street in Noblesville.
Exactly.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to order a hamburger, fries, salt, maybe a large vanilla shake. Yeah.
This is a trophy shop, can't you tell?
You got a counter right here. Isn't this where you place the orders?
We sell trophies, we sell plaques, we do embroidery. No food.
You got carry out?
Unlike the internet, everything that you need we have here at the shop. Very unique. You order today, carry out tonight. That's our version of carry out.
All right, I'll take one of everything.
Well, that may take a little longer. We'll have it for you tomorrow night.
You know, Jim, I'll be back tomorrow to pick it all up.
We'll wait for you.
Don't wait long.
Welcome back to the Hamilton County High School Football Coaches Show. I'm Brad Silbert. Big thanks to Perry Williams and Jim Wofford and the rest of the Hamilton County television crew for getting the show together for us tonight. Here's a quick reminder. Coming up Friday night on game day, starting at 7, we'll have look-ins on the Fishers Pike game, the Hamilton Southeastern North Central game, Lafayette Central Catholic at Guerin Catholic, and Shenandoah at Heritage Christian. The next coach we're going to go to is Coach Jake Gilbert of the Westfield Shamrocks. Perry Williams had a chance to catch up with him earlier today. Let's see what Perry and the coach had to say.
Well, welcome to Hamilton County Coaches Show. I'm Perry Williams, and today, first week of football is in the books now, and I'm interviewing today Coach Jake Gilbert, the coach of the Westfield Shamrocks. Welcome, Coach.
Hi, Perry. Thanks for coming.
Well, no problem. One thing about it is, Coach, big win against Harrison.
Always good to start off with a W.
Absolutely. You got to win them one at a time, but you got to get the first one before you can get the second
Yes, sir.
one. So let's talk a little bit about that game. You came out victorious, 55-28 over Harrison. In typical fashion that you definitely like in all the years I've been interviewing you. And by the way, this is your 9th year?
Yeah.
Man, times are flying. Yes. I can remember the first year you were here.
Yeah, I know.
So it's gone pretty fast. But anyways, let's talk about it, because I know that it is very, very important to you always to have that balanced attack. And, man, you had the balanced attack of rushing for 274 yards and passing for 314. So let's talk a little bit about that.
The offense was tremendous. So if you can be that balance, it starts with the offensive line.
Yeah.
So those guys were excellent in pass protection, but then also outstanding in run blocking. So all credit to them. This is probably the best O-line we've had. Strong and big and physical, and that helps. And we have 4 seniors. That helps as well. So very excited about our O-line. And we have about 7 to 8 varsity guys that we've been playing, and we're excited about all of them.
Absolutely. What about, the one thing about it, that first quarter was pretty exciting. You put up 27 points, and Harrison put up 14. So
we scored, we stopped them, and we scored on the first play, stopped them again, scored again pretty quick. And so it looked like, oh, wow, we're going to run with this thing. But then naturally, we give up a huge long pass play. And then they kicked off and did a pooch kick that they recovered. So before you know it, that 14-0 lead was, it was a lot closer pretty quick. I think maybe it was 21-14 after they scored. So they scored on a long pass play, recovered a fumble, a ball we didn't field on the kickoff return, scored again, and now all of a sudden it was certainly a ball game, and they did a great job. So we knew they weren't going to fold their tents, but it was a competitive ball game. Our offense was rolling, our defense was kind of hit or miss, and credit to Harrison for that.
And of course, your quarterback, Cam Simmons, let's talk a little bit about him, because he ran the ball well and he threw the ball well.
Yeah, so Cam Simons had maybe as good of a game as we've ever had for a quarterback here. I think he was 10-13 passing for 300 yards, so those yards per completion, that's pretty high. We almost had another one that we didn't quite come down with. And then he ran the ball for over 100. He had a real long rushing touchdown that showed his speed, and he had another probably about 55-yard run that was called back. And so we're really happy with Cam as a person, as a leader, his experience. He knows the offense, he gets in the right play, and he can handle anything out there. So 2-year captain, we've been waiting for this
I can remember
a long time.
Yeah,
and we're excited that it's here.
Of course, the running game was good too, 274 yards. And 33 carries. So
yeah, so we like to run the ball here. We kind of spread it around because the running backs are playing on defense as well. So that's different for us. We don't always play guys 2 ways, but we're very inexperienced on defense, and so in terms of what's best for the team, we were playing some guys on defense, and we're deep at the running back position. So that's kind of the why behind that. We'll see how it goes going forward, but right now we're playing 3 different running backs, believe it or not, and the quarterback can run the ball. So we try to keep all those guys fresh and play a little bit of offense and then play a lot of defense.
Absolutely. Coach, let's, like you said, that front line, with those seniors, that really helps You really because passing or running, you have to have an offensive line, or you're going to run for your life as a quarterback. So,
well, Aiden Parker has started for us since his sophomore year. Ross Krieg has started for us since his sophomore year. So we have 2 3-year starting seniors, and then Jacob Nettrell started last year. He's a returner, and then we played Alex Juarez as a senior this past Friday, pretty much the whole game. So obviously excited about those guys. Bronson Coy and Dakota Arvin and Cole Grady are 3 big juniors that are in there as well, and we have a sophomore, Zach Williams, that gets to play some. So, yeah, and senior tight end, Levi. So we're thrilled with those guys up front.
Yeah, because and the one thing about it in your passing game, it was a good game, but also you had quite a few receivers caught the ball.
Yeah, I was happy that so many people got involved. Mason Peening had a huge day.
Yeah.
That's pretty unusual for a guy to have that many yards receiving football. But yeah, we're pretty deep on offense, receiving core as well, and excited about our O. And we don't usually score 55 points, so I'm not sure if that'll happen every week. But I do feel like it'll be a great year for us offensively.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about that defensive side, because you already mentioned that, some players got to mature a little bit. So some players, some of your seniors are going both ways.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, we returned Martin McLaurin at defensive tackle, Owen Ogle at nose guard. Owen just did not play Friday, but he'll be back this coming week.
Okay.
And we returned Micah Hauser in the secondary, but that's about it. We don't return too many guys who played varsity. So kind of a new cast, but we will get better and improve and play hard, just try to prevent that explosive play, and we'll be okay. I do think our D-line will be really good when it's all said and done. And we're improving that linebacker and then secondary as well. We just need some reps and experience.
Yeah, get some time.
Yeah. I was happy with Eli Patchett. He led us in tackles.
Yeah, I think he had 10, didn't he?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And recovered a fumble, and then he ran the ball for 100 yards. So
they had 2 fumble turnovers. Is that correct?
Yeah, we got 2 from them, but we had a strip sack against us, and then the fumble on the kickoff return. So we were even on the turnover battle, but still managed to win the game.
Well, that sounds good. Coming up here, though, game 1's down. You got to move on, okay? And I know your coaching staff has already done that.
Yeah.
You celebrated a little bit after the game Friday, and then got to work. So,
yeah, very quality opponent coming up. Decatur Central, who played in the state championship game last year. They beat us last year in a game that really went down to the last few minutes. They scored on the last play to make it a 14-point game, but really we were tied with a few minutes left, and instead of kicking a field goal, we went for it on 4th and 1, and they stopped us, and then they scored a couple plays later on the long run, and that was unfortunate, but we were right there with them, and they were an excellent team. So we'll see what they have in store for this year. They always have some explosive players. Kenny Tracy, I believe, is an IU recruit, and so we're going to have to keep him under wraps, and they have a very good defensive end, and some other good players as well. I like the quarterback. We're going to have to play really physical. And
well, that's how because they like to play fast and physical.
Yeah, they're definitely fast.
Yeah.
They're not real big this year, but much faster than us, so we'll see what wins out, the strength of the speed.
It'll be kind of interesting, last year when you played against Decatur Central, Kenny Tracy had 15 carries for 145 yards and also had 10 tackles.
Yeah.
So he's the real deal.
He is the real deal.
Yeah. So, but the one thing about it, I struggle with it, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing of Decatur Central getting beat by Franklin Central, because I know you see Franklin Central later in the season. And Decatur Central losing, and they were 12-2 last year, so it's kind of a mixed bag there. But Tracy kind of struggled a little bit for yardage against, but he did have quite a few, I think, through the air, because they threw the ball
to him.
Yeah, a lot more than they did, last year.
Right. Yeah. So he's still their guy. And if they need to run it, they're going to hand it to him. If they need to throw it, they're going to throw it to him a lot. And so he still responded, just in a little bit of a different way. But he's, it starts with stopping him. Franklin Central was very impressive because they were very physical.
Yeah.
And I was definitely impressed with the job that they did, not only on him, but just in general.
Yeah, I think, don't you have Franklin Central towards the end? Is that your last game? Okay. And I will have to say, I saw them, you played them, and then I saw them earlier of a game we broadcast. They got better as the year went on last year, so, and they got quite a few players back, so.
Yeah, they'll be good.
Yeah,
so Decatur losing to them, that wasn't a shock. We'll see how good Decatur is face to face when you don't have as much film. It's hard to really know. But they graduated a lot, but they've got some good players back too.
Yeah, and they also, the one thing about it, they have their kicking and punting back. Those guys are 3-year starters, so you know how important the kicking and punting game is today. I mean, that's it. You and I have talked in years past that's sometimes an unheralded thing about kicking and punting. It's a bigger part of the game than many people realize.
Yeah. We're new in those positions ourselves, so
this is unusual for you.
Yes. We've had a good run.
Yeah.
But I was thrilled with Eduardo Beltran in the game. I thought he kicked it great on the PATs, and Sean Sullivan had a few touchbacks as a kickoff guy, and so I was really happy with those two in particular. And Bryson Hoover is our punter, and he's a sophomore linebacker, but he's punting for us, and he had one really good punt and an athletic play on another. So I was thrilled with our new guys because I was a little bit nervous. Lau Beams, our snapper, and this is his first year, but he's really good, so I don't worry about that as much.
Well, you got Decatur Central coming up, and you're on the road. In fact, you're on the road for the next 2 weeks, right?
Well, we're at Decatur, and then we're at Zionsville. Yeah. So it's time to get to it here. Obviously, I'm glad to get that first one under our belt.
Oh, absolutely.
Hopefully, we can carry through and play well against Decatur as well.
All right. Thanks a lot, Coach, and I appreciate it. Remind you, next week we won't do a show because that's Labor Day weekend, so that Monday we don't do a show, but we'll do it the following week.
Hopefully we have good news.
Yeah, absolutely. We could be talking about 3-0 Rocks, right?
Well, that would be great. Yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I know that. You take it one at a time and all that. I understand. Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
See you then. Go Rocks.
Couple quick reminders before we wrap stuff up tonight. Don't forget, coming up next week, we will not be on the air on Labor Day with the Coaches Show. However, coming up this Friday night, we've got game day at 7 o'clock. That'll feature 4 great football games here from the area. It'll be Fishers at Pike, Hamilton Southeastern at North Central, Lafayette Central Catholic at Guerin Catholic, and Shenandoah at Heritage Christian. Then coming up next week on Wednesday evening at 6:30, girls soccer as the Fishers Tigers come to White River Elementary to meet the Noblesville Millers in girls soccer. That will be at 6:30 1 week from Wednesday. On behalf of Jim Wofford and Perry Williams and the rest of our Hamilton County television crew, thank you for joining us for the Hamilton County High School Football Coaches Show. Good night.